Welcome to another explainer. Have you ever found yourself locked in this intense psychological tug-of-war between the present you, who just wants to chill out, and the future you, who desperately needs to get to work? Listen, it's a battle we all fight, but the reasons we lose are completely misunderstood. Today, we're opening up a unique behavioral investigation into exactly why your brain keeps saying later. Get ready, because what we're about to uncover is going to completely change how you view your own mind.
We have all been here, right? It's 7 p.m., you've got an assignment due tomorrow, and you sit down to work. By 7:05, you think, you know what, I'll just take 5 quick minutes on my phone. Suddenly, it's 8 p.m., you're deep down a rabbit hole of completely random distractions, and before you know it, it's 11:30 and absolute panic sets in. A supposedly quick break has cascaded into an entirely wasted evening.
So, let's dive right into this. Our lead investigator, Logi, poses the central mystery of this explainer. Why exactly did 5 minutes become 4 hours? It's this wild phenomenon that baffles even the brightest minds. I mean, think about it. You had the time, you had the energy, so what actually hijacked your evening?
If you ask most people, they'll immediately point to the usual false suspects: poor time management, a lack of willpower, or just flat-out laziness. But we are deliberately debunking the myth of laziness right now. The true culprit, which is backed by some really intense psychological research, is emotion regulation and mood repair. Your brain isn't avoiding a task because you're lazy. Actually, it's avoiding the task because the task makes you feel uncomfortable, anxious, or bored, and your brain is desperately trying to escape that feeling.
Researchers Tyson Bradlowski hit the nail on the head when they coined the phrase, giving in to feel good. Procrastination is, fundamentally, a short-term coping mechanism. When you sit down to work, your brain scans the task and basically asks, okay, is this safe or is it uncomfortable? If it senses the discomfort of self-doubt or frustration, it instantly looks for an exit door, just to repair your mood. You're avoiding the work simply to feel better right in this exact moment.
Section 1. The amygdala hijack, the neurobiology of delay.
To truly wrap our heads around why your brain keeps saying later, we need to look under the hood. On one side of the ring, we have the prefrontal cortex. That's the logical center that cares about your long-term goals, though it does have a little subsection that loves immediate rewards too. And on the other side, the amygdala. That is our ancient, super fast threat detection center. When a task feels frustrating or difficult, that rapid-fire amygdala sounds the alarm and easily overpowers the much slower logical prefrontal cortex.
And guys, this alarm is no joke. The amygdala sounds off against boredom, frustration, and self-doubt with the exact same intensity it would use if you were literally being chased by a wild animal. In fact, research out of Ruhr University found that chronic procrastinators actually have a physically larger amygdala. That means their brains are highly sensitive to negative emotions. They literally process aversive tasks exactly like physical threats. To your brain, sitting down to write that essay honestly feels the same as being stalked by a bear.
Moving on to Section 2, the present bias scale, now versus later.
Think of it like a giant scale. We have the warm, immediate now on one side, your phone, your comfortable bed, instant videos. On the other side is the distant later, getting good grades, career success, getting fit. Logically, the future side holds objectively larger rewards. We know this, but to your brain, that now side initially weighs so much heavier. The present comfort is dominating and intense, while the imagined future success just feels distant and weak.
Scientists call this temporal discounting. It's essentially the brain's built-in tendency to assign way less value to rewards that are further away in time. And it makes sense, it's an evolutionary mismatch. For our ancient ancestors, survival literally meant grabbing immediate rewards. A berry in your hand today was worth way more than a whole bush you might find next week. Because of this ancient wiring, our modern brains are just terrible at waiting for distant payoffs, like a university degree or a job promotion.
And it gets even stranger. According to some absolutely fascinating research by psychologist Hal Hirschfield, your brain literally processes future you as a complete stranger. When neuroscientists put people in fMRI machines, they found that the neural activity lighting up when you think about your future self is the exact same activity that lights up when you think about a random celebrity. We so easily dump work on our future selves because, neurologically speaking, it's not our problem. It's some stranger's problem.
Section 3. The dopamine timing trap. The chemical engine.
Let's talk about dopamine, because it is so widely misunderstood. Most people think it's a pleasure chemical, but actually it's an anticipation chemical. It fires when you expect a reward, pulling you toward it. Your brain scans for comfort, anticipates the reward of, say, scrolling your phone, and releases a dopamine pulse before you even open the app.
And this right here is the modern trap. The apps on your phone are hyper-engineered to trigger fast, immediate dopamine pulses. It's an instant hit of anticipation. On the flip side, finishing a massive assignment triggers slow, distant pulses. Those immediate, highly engineered dopamine hits easily drown out the slow, distant rewards of your long-term goals. Your logical brain is just completely outgunned by your own neurochemistry.
Which brings us to Section 4, Rewiring for Action, Solving the Case.
Because the absolute beauty of understanding all this neurobiology is that once we know exactly how the system works, we can actively hack it. First things first, you have to shrink the emotional mountain you've built around the task. We call this the 5-minute rule. Instead of telling your brain, I will write this whole script perfectly, which remember, sounds like a massive threat to your amygdala, you say, I will write 3 bad lines. This isn't just a productivity hack, it is literally a nervous system negotiation. By making the start ridiculously small, you dramatically lower what neuroscientists call limbic friction, which lets you completely bypass those internal alarm bells.
We usually think we need motivation to take action, right? But the mechanism actually flows the other way. Step 1 is taking a tiny action. That naturally creates a sense of progress, which then provides a small reward to your brain. And that is what generates motivation. Motivation is the result of action, not the prerequisite for it. So to help your logical brain fight back, you need concrete tactics. Make the hidden tax visible. Write down the anxiety tax or the sleep tax that delaying is going to cost you tonight, so the brain clearly sees the true cost of procrastination. Next, reward the start. Give yourself a small reward, literally just for beginning, training your brain to associate starting with relief. And finally, visualize your future self. Actually imagine the relief your future self is going to feel, bridging that neuro gap so they don't just feel like a random celebrity.
Above all, it's absolutely crucial to remember that this isn't a character flaw. Real-time EEG studies show a measurable drop in frontal theta power, which is essentially your brain's cognitive control center powering down, just seconds before a person procrastinates. Procrastination is a physical, observable brain state. It's an automatic, biological reaction. Removing the shame from this process is the critical first step to overriding the system, because shame only triggers that amygdala alarm even further.
As all our complex biases fade away, we are left standing in the decision corridor with just 2 distinct options, now versus later. This is the ultimate battleground.
Which perfectly brings us to our investigator Logi's final conclusion. Procrastination isn't always about not wanting the long-term reward. You want the degree, you want the fitness. It's simply about wanting a different, mood-repairing reward more right now. But by shrinking the task, calculating the hidden tax, and generating dopamine through tiny actions, you can pull that distant future goal right into your warm, comfortable present.
And that allows us to stamp this file, case solved. You now possess the blueprint of your own mental resistance. You understand the amygdala's alarm, the dopamine trap, and the stranger that is your future self. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. Knowing exactly how your brain is wired, and exactly why it keeps saying later, what reward will you choose right now? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.